my aunt. And staying with her, it was different. She was a very eccentric woman. She had been by herself for years. It was just kind of weird. Being in that house was the first time that I can really say that I felt spirit. I knew the ability that I had. But we stayed there for a few months, at least 6 months or something, and we went to school from there. Me and my sister have been playing basketball since the fourth grade. And so my mom always told us, if one of you plays, both of you play. Over the years, like, we would switch off, like, I don't want to play, so we kind of just talk ourselves into it and we end up playing. We also have been dance. Dance is my first love. I love to dance and I love to watch dance. I think it's beautiful. It's a beautiful art. While living in that house, my Aunt Freddie Mae had a costume store. And I say that very sarcastically. It was a costume store for women. She also had a back house, which was like an in-law quarters. It was a one-bedroom studio looking place. My mom just kind of didn't want to move into it. We cleaned it out. We did all kind of things to it, but my mom just didn't want to move in there. So we ended up moving back in with my grandpa. My grandfather taught me a lot. I attribute a lot of the things that I know and a lot of my motivation to my grandfather. He was a man who, one weekend, me and my twin sister, 12 years old, we go and pick out a dresser. The next weekend, we're sanding and prepping the dresser. The next weekend, we're painting it. And then the very following weekend, we're stripping the paint off of it. For no reason. No reason at all. There was no reason why we were doing that other than it was a life lesson. But at 12 years old, you don't understand that. He made sure we knew how to use every single tool. He told me and my sister, I don't want you to ever have to depend on a man. I don't want you to ever have to depend on anyone. You need to learn how to do this yourself. Whether it was the hammer, the saw, the screwdriver, you name it, drills, we used them. And we built bingo boxes for him because he went to these weekend-long bingo tournaments, but he was a very eccentric man. And living with him, he wasn't used to having children in his house. His house was not made for children. I had not eaten soul food until I moved in with my grandfather. I didn't know what soul food was. I didn't know any of that. I had no clue. We ate like tacos and burritos all the time. I love tacos, by the way. It was a culture shock when we moved in with him because he cooked daily. Look, his family's from Texas and he took pride in his food. One year for Christmas, he put together this feast. He pulled this big table out in the living room. We cleaned up, dusted the ceiling. In that, he cooked like chitlins, he cooked hog mugs, he cooked red beans and rice, which are still to this day, if made right, my very favorite. He had a best friend that they were inseparable. And he told me and my sister, if you eat this chitterling, that I will pay you. And I was like, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. My sister, however, the human garbage disposal is what we call her because she ate everybody's food. I was this thin until I was about 12 years old because my sister ate everything. She ate all my food. Hey, you gonna eat that? Hey, you want that? Always. She likes food. She just likes food. She ate the chitterling. She ate it. She put it in her mouth. She chewed it slowly and she let it slither. And I say slither because that's what it does down her throat. She probably learned at that time that she didn't like everything because she spit it out so fast. It was just one of those days that you always remember with those people that are important. It was a nice Christmas. I don't celebrate Christmas still. There's no allure in it for me. When we were younger, there's just a lot of trauma-based things that's around Christmas that just keeps me from the spirit. I also feel like it's a commercial holiday, so yeah, any commercial holiday I don't really celebrate. But we stayed in my grandpa's house for a very long time. At that time, he didn't want any boys in the house, so my brother wasn't allowed to stay. And I believe that this was a turning point for my brother. He was 13 years old, and it was just one of those situations where he felt my grandpa didn't want him, but that's kind of where we had to go, and he felt unwanted, and I get it. So I feel like that's where he made a turn at, and he just just never really, never really came back until we got older. Living in that house was interesting. My dad would come by and serenade my mom for hours on end, either during the day or at night. One time, I'm a music person. I love music. I was listening to All Cried Out by Lisa and Cold Jam. Still to this day, I hate hearing that song. It just, when I hear it, I get like knots in my stomach. My dad acted such a fool one time that song just, I don't like it. I just don't like it. Our first dance grade, the 7th grade dance, everybody in town went to. We all knew each other, so we shouldn't have acted like such 7th graders, because everybody's either related by blood or, say it with me, related by marriage. We begged our mom to go, so we got there, and literally everybody standing on the wall. This is where I realized that I had a little bit of hood in me. I mean, I grew up in the hood, so I knew it, but because I've always been so shy. We're standing around and the song Push It by Salt and Pepper comes on. And I'm like, I just sucked. It sucked. It wasn't anything like anything on TV. I'm gonna dance. And then after that, everyone started dancing, and it ended up being like the funnest dance ever. We got about 20 minutes to actually dance before they kicked us out. Anyway, my grandfather, his house was not suited for children, and then my mom wanted her son back with her because she just didn't feel right that he wasn't allowed to be there. So we moved back into the original house that we moved to when we moved to Modesto, which is right in front of my grandfather's house. He stayed in the back, we stayed in the front. By then, my mom had gained her independence. My dad wasn't bothering her anymore. He was in a new relationship, so he kind of had left her alone at that point. My mom and her friends always partied. They loved to sit at the house. They loved to drink these old school drinks. So my mom and her friends played quarters and things like that. So me and my sister always came up after they got drunk, because people are just so kind after they start drinking. My mom and her friends were always around, and they were always just having a nice time, just kicking it. So my mom started dating this guy, and he was an ex of someone else in Modesto. When my mom and him started dating, the lady obviously was upset and mad and jealous, I don't know. So one day she decides it was a good idea to come over to the house and start arguing and threatening my mom. Well, I decided it was a good idea to go and grab a knife and just swirl it around like this. I'm 13 years old at this point. My mom just turning around and looking at me, and she had this look on her face like, oh shit, what am I teaching my kid? And she pulled me and she was like, Shelly, go in the house, because her friend was there too. And I'm just like, after seeing so much that your mom had been through by that time, I was ready for anything. I was ready for anything. Come closer, I dare you. My second time feeling like I had this gift, and it was, I used to be able to manifest people. I used to be able to bring people to me. You can call people to you. And it takes some determination and obviously some concentration and things like that. But I didn't know what I was doing, but it worked every time. It was the second time that I realized that you have a gift. I was 13 and there was this guy that was 17 years old, and I thought I was in love. He was like the finest thing I had ever seen, and I was in love. He had pretty light brown eyes and a beautiful smile, but that's all he had. That was it. He was tall. One time coming home from school, and my mom and her friend are standing in the doorway, and I'm at home. I get home, I put my stuff away, and I go outside to sit on the bench, kind of decompress or whatever from your day. So this guy comes up behind me and lays his hands on my shoulder like this. I lost it. My breath just escaped me. I did not breathe for 5 seconds. Tears welled up in my eyes. Just my emotions just went crazy. My hormones went crazy. But then I turn around and I see my mom and her friend in the doorway, snickering and laughing and giggling like teenagers at what had just happened. I was livid. You're making fun of the fact that this man that I love is touching my shoulder and I'm losing it. 13 years old, what do? You know, I had crushes on a lot of different people. Every week it was someone else, so he was no different. That was just a moment for me where I was like, oh my gosh, he touched me. The very first fight I got in was this boy that we grew up with and around. I'm not a fighter. I don't like arguing. I don't like any of that. However, he called me out into the street anyway, so we fought. And I got him on the ground and I just kind of whooped his ass. But I realized that I blacked out. I didn't even realize what I had done. And so I didn't like that feeling. At all costs, will not fight because I do not like that feeling. I'm just not a fighter. Even in having crushes on all these people, I had a secret that I had never told anyone. I had a girlfriend. She wrote me a letter and she said, will you be my girlfriend? Mark yes or no. And I marked yes. Had no clue what it meant. Had no clue of anything about it. I didn't even know I liked girls at the time. I just knew that somebody liked me and I was now her girlfriend. That's all I knew. We didn't even talk to each other. We didn't write each other. Like nothing. So I don't even know why we called ourselves together. It was weird. But 13 years old, that's what you do. Now it's different. But then that's what you did. And so my grandpa came up to the front house one night and he was in rare form. Like he laughed and joked a lot. He told his corny little jokes. He used to lie to us and tell us that he went to school with Angela Lansbury and just things like this. So we're all laughing and having a good time. We were just having a good time. And the morning came and one of the little neighborhood kids was going to my grandpa's house because a lot of us would go over there, take his candy. She went in there and found my grandpa dead. He died of an aneurysm to the brain, December 17th, 1989. I was 13 years old. I was devastated. This man that has taught me so many things, this man that has showed my mom compassion, this man that loved my mom unconditionally, he was gone. And I noticed a change in my mom too. She just wasn't the same person. My mom lost her dad and she just lost a part of herself. She was never the same. Me and my sister had a playoff game that we were supposed to go to the night before my grandpa's funeral. No, we didn't want to go to the game. We didn't want to go. So the team lost, but you know, I would have made that decision all over again. It just wasn't the right place for me to be at the time, I felt. Because I was devastated. It was the first man that I really loved that was just gone. One time, me and my sister are wanting to go to Taco Bell. Oh, it's Modesto. It was the only Taco Bell in Modesto at the time. And it was by our favorite place to play, which was the brand new parking garage for the Red Lion Edge. Again, it's Modesto. That's what we had to do. We played in the parking garage. We took some of the kids with us. We get out the gate and we start walking up the street. No more than we turn the corner walking up the street, police start shooting out from everywhere. My mom's house was always like the kick it house. It was always somewhere where all the young people came because her kids, my mom was young. Her kids were fair, you know, around the same age, a little younger than the people that were coming over there. So there were always people at our house. They raided my mom's house. They not only raided my mom's house, they raided the back house too because my uncle was living in my grandpa's house. They raided the back house too. Me and my sister were lucky. We got out just in the nick of time. Like, I don't know if they waited for us to leave, but we got out just in the nick of time. And so, yeah, it was just, we got lucky. After that, my mom decided that she didn't want to be in Modesto no more. They told her that, you know, she was better off leaving. And so she did. We moved to Sacramento and we moved in with my cousin, Terry. Okay, bye.